Hey, what's up? Welcome to DGenEd and this episode of Bearish or Bullish. And so in this video, I'm going to go over two stocks and discuss whether or not I think they look bearish or bullish. And so one of those is going to be the chart behind me, which is of Snapchat, ticker symbol SNAP. And I'm also going to be going over Webull, ticker symbol BULL, Snap and Bull. And so I was actually going to release a clip from yesterday's stream on Webull this morning, going over some options data. But then I started to think about some other things, saw some other accounts tweeting about both of these tickers, and I thought I'd go over that and go over my analysis, incorporate their perspectives into that. And so here, looking at the Webull chart before I do get into it, we did close yesterday on Monday, October 6th, at a price of $13.71, and I am recording this in the pre-market on Tuesday, October 7th. And so with that close at $13.71, we closed below and broke below that blue line, which is the 50-day simple moving average. We've been above it here, we broke below it here, got a short-lived break above it, and now we are back below. And some of the things that I did discuss in the stream and prior videos are going to be these levels here. And what we can see is this downtrend that has acted as resistance. If I connect it to the closes, the closes, the opens here, it does look like, we potentially, broke out, pulled back, and retest, and are potentially below that now. So that doesn't necessarily look so good. And, if I adjust it to the highs here, it does look like we are very, very clearly still below that downtrend, continuing to put in lower highs. And then looking at the data over here, we've got the volume that, from how I've drawn this, we have seen a decrease in volume as it has consolidated. And then I have this white line drawn here because I wanted to see volume pick up as Webull starts to break out. We did see volume pick up, not as high as I was expecting or hoping here, but there has been a lot of effort behind that move, and it hasn't really resulted in breaking out from that downtrend. We also see the same thing with the RSI, with lower highs over here corresponding with lower highs here. So there's no bearish divergence, but with this, push out, that more effort, that strength there, not resulting in higher highs. So that does suggest some weakness there. Having pulled back to that yellow line there, the 618 around 1387, could be heading down to the 786 at 1329 or possibly lower. And so that brings me to the first tweet that I wanted to go over, which is from Free Wyckoffs. I'm going to include a link to all of these profiles in the description of this video so you guys can follow these guys on X and or check out their channels on YouTube. But yeah, what Free Wyckoffs is saying is that Webull looks bearish now after failure to follow through to the upside. And so that's what I was talking about, not being able to put in a higher high with that volume pushing it out. And so potential long at $12 to $15 as mentioned. So he had previously discussed this, and I think that's kind of what I was talking about in prior streams. But with this VPA, which is volume price analysis, and a lower high, this is a failed bullish move. And so this could be distributing heavily. And so he's saying this looks like Robinhood, or ticker symbol HOOD, before it dumped at IPO. And this actually reminds me of whether it's Robinhood or Coinbase. Those spent a lot of time, down after they had IPO'd. Now, of course, they are performing very well, but, it took years for that to happen. And so he is saying enable volume on your charts. It helps, but I think more importantly, not only enabling volume, but taking the time to learn and understand volume is very important. And so the screenshot that he has here does a great, explanation of his thesis, and that is that over here you see this distribution following the IPO, and that you have increased effort, this volume over here versus results. So as you have volume going up, you actually don't see price going up, and he thinks that this could be coming down to a prolonged accumulation phase. Maybe it goes longer than this, maybe it doesn't, but this extends out to the end of 2026 over here. So this could be accumulating down here, and if we just go over to the y-axis here, that's about $7 down to $2. Or sorry, 280, so around 7 to 3. And so this could be accumulating much more negative than where it's currently at, around 13, plus or minus whatever it is. And yeah, and so this makes me a little bit concerned that Webull could be breaking down. And while I do have this trend line here showing that volume is decreasing as the lower highs have been coming in, and then we see a potential breakout volume here, which was failed. If we do take a step back, as he has drawn it over here, all of the volume there, what we can see is we actually put in a higher high with the volume here, and so you could draw an approximate uptrend here, and especially if I delete this fake little spike there. And what I might do with my drawings is just go to kind of illustrate what he's suggesting, and also this big candle over here, that is when it IPO'd. So, of course, there's going to be a lot of volume there. It's the first day that people can trade it. And so I think that you could probably not necessarily ignore that, but, it's not going to be as important. And then if we do adjust this trend line, it does look like, as he illustrated, volume has been increasing here. There's a lot of effort. And if I do remove the drawing so we can see it, there hasn't been a lot of result. So that does make me think that Webull could be breaking down and that this could actually be looking bearish. And another thing to kind of back up that analysis is to consider options data, call and put premium, net call and put premium, to see if that is leaning more in the bearish or bullish direction. And so looking over here at unusual whales, got the ticker Webull pulled up over here, ticker symbol bull, and what we can see is in green is the net call premium, which is down by over $5 million yesterday on October 6th. But we also see net put premium in red down as well, but only down by $1.79 million. So both of them are down. So that's not necessarily leaning more heavily bearish or bullish, but the net call premium is down by more. So that would be suggesting that it is more likely on the side of the bears, with more selling of calls versus selling of puts. We can also see the yellow, the stock price did come down yesterday. This is just the data for the 6th. If I go back the past 30 days, we can get a bigger picture perspective. What we see in yellow is the price coming down and that attempted breakout over here, and then the price pulling back again, of course. And then do we see any real big trends that stand out with the red or green? So we do see some green over here popping up to the positive, so that is potentially bullish. And it looks like the highest it is around $2.67 million, and that was leading up to the top here. And then price started to roll over, and we actually see net call premium going pretty negative. And like over here on October 6th, we see that coming down by negative 5 million, 5.10 million. So this actually seems more like, bulls were betting on a breakout, kind of, in line with what Free Wyckoff's is saying over here, potential long at 12 to 15 as mentioned, but, it failed. And so looking at this looks like the bet on the bullish move that failed. And then those who were in those calls are saying, hey, this failed. There's nothing more bearish than a failed bullish move. And then they start to sell those calls. So this one, I would actually say, seems more bearish, or at least there aren't enough things lined up to make me think that this is going to be bullish. Maybe some things with this downtrend and a potential breakout. Maybe this is a fake out pulling back below that 50 SMA, but maybe also volume has been increasing and the result has not resulted in what we would like to see, selling of calls, that this looks more bearish. And also, one of the things to consider about this that does make the analysis a little difficult is that there really isn't that much data here. So is this volume elevated? We don't really see any volume in the past because it didn't exist prior to its IPO date. So we can't really get a longer term perspective on this going back in time. But generally, again, I think that bull actually looks bearish. But then let's now go over to the next one on the list, which is going to be Snapchat, ticker symbol SNAP. I actually don't have any drawings up on this, so we can go over that together and see some levels that might be standing out as either support, resistance, or where price could be going. And so yesterday on October 6th, on Monday, Snapchat closed at a price of $8.52. Looks like it's up a little bit in the pre-market at $8.58. But, pre-market, overnight, after hours, there's less volume in that after market hours trading time. So I think it's best to just look at the daily. That's what I like to do, and that gives us a little bit longer term perspective than looking at that short term price action and volatility. But anyways, looking at this, what do we see? We see, if I just get this trend line tool here, we see that we are putting in lower highs. So that is similar to what we were looking at with Webull. We also see the 50-day simple moving average there, which is at 783. We did, trade below it for a little while. We did get above it, break back below, but now we're actually trading above it. So that is looking pretty good. We're above that level, that moving average. And we also do see that volume has picked up, similar to, what we saw over here with Webull. However, what's the result from Webull? A breakout and then rejection from that SMA, still putting in lower highs. Still putting in lower highs here with Snapchat. However, looking at the high from September 29th, that high was actually at $8.74. And then the high from October 6th was $8.88. So that is actually a higher high right there. So I might just illustrate that like this. And so that is potentially looking good. And you could actually make the same argument, though, with Webull, that from over here there is a higher high. So, just want to point that out. Don't want to be arbitrarily leaning more heavily bullish on Snapchat. Just want to be fair here. And so with that, we're actually seeing a little bit of rejection from that downtrend. We did get nearly a doji. The open yesterday was at 586. The close was at 582. So nearly a doji. Big wick to the upside, big wick to the downside. That suggests a little bit of indecision that we could be pulling back. But with again with that volume, a break above the 50-day SMA, and so even a retracement would still lead it to potentially, be still above that 50 SMA. So I find this to be pretty interesting. This is, I would say, compelling to me. And so following up with Free Wyckoff's, I also saw this post yesterday from him. And, this is Central Time. So this would have been around 12:20 in the afternoon, Eastern Time on October 6th. And he just posted some options data here. We can look at that, and this is, a put. And I'll actually go over this. This is kind of coincidence. I hadn't clicked on that to see the full details, but this is $1.37 million, and we will look at this put in a minute, coincidentally. But, it's good to have confluence between analysts, between what we're seeing in the charts and all of that. But what Free Wyckoff's is saying, and here we go. End of range. And this put, this could actually be suggesting that it is bearish, that it's breaking down, but maybe these are being sold. Maybe it's suggesting it's a breakout. And so I saw this and I said, and Snap is down on the day. And so I was assuming that he meant that this was bullish. Some may be frustrated, but I smell, and this is the, GIF meme from the Big Short, and, smell opportunity. And so let's come back to the chart. If this is to be pulling back, where might it be pulling back to? And so I'm just going to do a little Fibonacci retracement from the approximate low over here on October 1st. And that low is at 752. I do have that lined up just right. And then the high from yesterday was 888. Let's see if I can get that lined up just right as well. And that does look good. So I'm going to lock it in place. And we can see some levels here. The 786 does seem to be matched up in red there with the blue line, the 50-day SMA or simple moving average, and that is at a price of $7.82. 50-day moving average at 783. So some confluence there. Price could be coming back to that, maybe finding that moving average as support then, and then it starts to break out. So that is pretty interesting. But before I dive into that rabbit hole, considering this, I also want to point out this post from the Bronx Viking, and he is actually the person who put Snap on my radar that this could potentially be looking bullish. And so I wanted to go over his tweet here, and then I will dive into some of the options data. And so looking at this screenshot that he has, we have this gap down. It's trading in this green range. I should note this is also on the daily, so the same time frame that I am looking at. And, it has consolidated here with volume picking up as we start to see a result. And what was that result? Let's actually look back at the chart over here to see if that gap was filled. But the close over here on August 5th, before the gap down, that close was at 939. And we got a high over here, September 22nd, of 928. So that gap has yet to be filled. So I'm just going to draw a little horizontal line there. That gap, as I had mentioned, the close was at 939. So let's just line that up just right there. Lock that into place. That's a gap that has yet to be filled. And this actually makes me think that this is from a psychological perspective, fairly bullish, because what you see here is an attempt to get up to that gap, and people are probably saying, hey, I'm going to buy down here and then I'll sell when that gap fills at 939 or 940, let's say. But then price doesn't get there. It only gets to 929. So anybody who had a limit sell at 940, 939, whatever it is, that sell order doesn't get placed. They don't make their money, which would have been, about 30% move to the upside. They're left holding the bag. The market tortures us as it tends to do. But then when there is the next bullish move to fill that gap, it doesn't just go up to that gap, it breaks through it, and we see a very big move. Anybody that did have a stop loss, or not a stop loss, a limit sell order at 940, they would then, want to FOMO back in. Oh, it's at 10. I want to chase it. And, that's how the market tricks us into losing money. So this actually seems like, now that it's pulled back some, that this could be setting up for a very nice breakout. And so coming back to over here, what you do have is this consolidation following that attempt to fill that gap. And with that consolidation, we do have elevated volume. However, volume does seem to, the past week or so, seem to be, dying down a little bit. So with that consolidation, if we do get a cool down in that volume a little bit more, we see a pump in volume, this could be breaking out again to above, filling that gap at, let's see, what did I say that price was? 939. So this could be getting up to 950 and beyond. All right, and then coming back to his tweet here, since this is in white, I'm not going to torture you guys by switching up the contrast on this screen, but what he has up there is the net call and put premium for, I believe, the past 30 days. And yes, you can see it there, but it's probably not on your screen. And so what I'm going to do, rather than diving into his chart and making that really big, I'm just going to pull it up here in unusual whales. And so this is the past 30 days looking at Snapchat. And what we can see in yellow is the stock price did go up, did pull back, and then did bounce up a little bit higher. And so what are some trends that we see going on here with the data on the screen. And so what we can see, the thing that really stands out to me, not looking at numbers necessarily or anything, just looking at trends, what we see is a lot of green above the 0 line. So that suggests buying of calls. That's net call premium in green. And so we can see the trend is that net call premium is oftentimes above that 0 line. That looks, pretty bullish. That suggests the buying of calls. And then also, kind of complementing that is that we see the net put premium in red, either, flat or more recently on the 6th, that actually being negative. And so that does suggest the selling of puts, and that is bullish. And if we also look at kind of the extremes on this chart, we can see that over here on October 2nd, we saw a net call premium increase of $3.5 million. So millions of dollars potentially going long on Snapchat. That's suggesting it's good. And it's also a trend of that. Although, kind of the lower highs over here, this is about $1.07 million. So you can see going across where that cursor is, there have been many days of $1 million plus increase in net call premium. So that does suggest going long. And then, again, to complement that, the maximum to the downside that we can see is going to be this net put premium from the 6th of October. And the maximum dip that we saw there was $1.1 million. But if we actually look at the full day, the $1.72 million coming down a net put premium. But at the end of the day, it ended up being negative $1.07 million. So it's actually not as negative, as the low here. But generally, it's $1 million potentially selling puts. So that does make me think that this is leaning more bullish. And then looking at the 1-day data over here, just from October 6th, we can see net call premium increasing there, net put premium decreasing, but then going back up a little bit, but still being negative. So again, this does make me think that this is more on the side of the bulls. And if we do look at the bear bull slider here, just above my head, the majority, which is 49%, is on the bullish side, considering the bearish and the neutral there. So this does align with my thoughts, the thoughts of Bronx, that this could be bullish. However, maybe that is contrary to what Free Wyckoffs is saying over here, considering that this is put data. So what we can do now is look at the flow for Snapchat. I've got that typed up over here in the flow feed for unusual whales. And then I'm just going to scroll up over here so you can see that I have the premium minimum filtered to a minimum of $100,000. And then so we can see kind of the bigger premium orders that were filled yesterday and prior days. And so just looking at the data from October 6th over here, and I think I can actually zoom in on this a little bit so you guys can see the numbers a little bit clearer. Maybe one more, but I think that's gonna, nope, you can still see the premium there. So that's good. I just need to make sure that I don't block it all. And so premium here, hundreds of thousands of dollars as we'd expect by that filter. And then one that's right here, actually just above me, is what I believe, Free Wyckoffs, also known as Rico, was posting over here. So if I do click on that, we can see this was the $9 put that expires in November at 12/17. And so looking at that data, kind of coincidentally, I was just looking at that premium there. That's the same order. There was actually an alert that went off with that, so that's pretty interesting. But yeah, we can just click on the date here to look at that contract to get an idea of whether or not this was bought or sold. And so zooming out a little bit, we can see the data here. This actually suggests that this was potentially buying, even though it's red. You might think that's the selling of puts. What we can see here, scrolling down, is the data for that contract, the $9 put that expires in November. Open interest yesterday was at 5,494 contracts open, but then the volume was more than the open interest. That's why the number was purple. I'll go over that in a second. So volume is greater than open interest. That suggests opening of positions. And we actually see that in the data here that for the 10th prior to open, for the 7th of October prior to open, we saw an increase in contracts by about 10,000. So that order that Free Wyckoffs was pointing out is suggesting that a lot of puts were being bought, over $1 million in premiums spent betting that the price is going to be going down, because now we see that open interest is 15,505, over 10,000 more than what it was yesterday. So that actually suggests that this is bearish. And also I should note that this is an in-the-money put at the $9 strike there, with price being at $8.58. And so coming back to the data over here, another one that we can see, I'm actually just going to zoom in a little bit more so you can see it. And just right here, you can see that the number there is purple. And if I click on it, it doesn't actually pop up, but the purple does signal that the volume, which we can see, let's see right over here, that volume was, I guess I have to take one step back so we can see the open interest. Volume right here was larger than the open interest. That's what the purple means there. But then looking at this, and actually I might just scroll down a little bit, we can see this other contract that also had more than $1 million in premium on October 6th. And with that $1.36 million, that was actually a call, the $8 call that also expires in November on the 21st. And so this could potentially be bullish. And I just want to point this out, that the put over here, this 10,000 order volume, that is actually lined up with it being bullish. And so that is because these were puts that were filled on the bid side. So that suggests selling. But what we actually see in the data, although this is an interesting aspect of it, a very interesting aspect of it, is that this suggests selling of puts because it's on the bid. However, looking at the data here, this is stuff I'm just, kind of realizing as I think through this, that with this being on the bid side, this could actually be the opening of a position, selling to open, cash secured puts. So they could actually be betting that price is going to be above $9 by November 21st. And so with that being said, they are putting on the line $1 million of that premium, $1.4 million, expecting then price to go higher. If these contracts close below $9 the put, then that they would have to buy those shares. If it closes above, they get to collect that premium. And so this actually, makes me think that this is a bullish trade, so good to consider. How does that line up with the analysis of the chart as well as the analysis of the data here? And then anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. I just think this is really interesting. But what we can see for October 6th, same day, I'm getting lost in my words here. But this is an $8 call again at November 21st. Again, I'm going to take, this is actually, I was seeing neutral, not bearish or bullish. And so let's look at the data here for this contract to see, does this look bearish or bullish? And so here we can see $8 November expiration. And with that, we can see that yesterday, let's see, just going to scroll this down. I'm actually just going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit better. Over here, so from the 6th, we saw an open interest of just under 24,000 contracts open on the 6th. So at the start of the day, October 6th, we saw a volume of about that size, just shy of 23,000 contracts open, representing about $3 million. And what did we see? We saw an increase in open interest by about 13.3 thousand contracts. So that's going to be, more than half of that total premium traded yesterday. So more than $1 million. And that 13.3 increase led to open interest going from about 24,000 to over 37,000 contracts open. So this makes me think that somebody's buying calls, millions of dollars, going long, and this is a trend, as we can see from what Bronx is posting over here. Lots of call buying. And actually, I do have this up here as well, but not on the, I should have just stuck with what he was posting there. A trend longer term of net call premium going up. So this looks bullish. The data that I'm going over here with this call contract looks bullish. This is an in-the-money call, $8 strike, and price is, see, just scrolling up here, $8.58. So that is, an in-the-money call. And then looking at that other contract that Rico from Free Wyckoff's was pointing out, this put that suggests that there are more contracts being open. But they are being sold to open is my understanding of it. So this is a bet that price is going to be above $9 by November 21st. So this actually makes me think this looks bullish. And so, looking at these tweets over here, I feel like I'm in line with Free Wyckoff's, thinking that Bull is actually looking bearish. And then to his tweet over here, this could be interpreted in different ways. It's kind of open to interpretation, because he's saying, here we go at the end of the range. That's where you have the biggest moves, whether that would be to the upside or the downside. Since this is a put, that would make me think it's probably bearish. However, with what we're seeing from the Bronx Viking, the analysis that I've gone over, this could actually be bullish. Again, in line with what Bronx is saying over here. He's been posting about this for a while. And then if I do come back to the chart, if this is to look bullish, where could it be going? However, if it is to look bullish, where could be a nice dip buying opportunity? Like I said, around $7.82 or maybe $8. The 618 here is at $8.04. And that would also be kind of like a psychological level, right around $8. And being above the 50-day SMA, people might be waiting for, hey, I'm going to buy when it gets a retest of that 50 SMA, and then I'm going to load the boat before this takes off. Maybe it doesn't get all the way down there. Maybe it only goes down to the 618. So the way that we can get an idea of where price could be going is by doing a Fibonacci extension. So I'm going to the low from September 2nd, which was at a price of $6.90. Also, that's a good omen because there's a 69 in there. We go to the high here from September 22nd. That's at 928. And so I'm just going to line that up there. And then pulling back to the low here on October 1st, which was at 752. And so let's just line it up, bring it forward into the future a little bit, and we could see that would be a price target for the 100% move, which if you're curious where that comes from, that is just the distance from the bottom here to the top. And then we take that from the low, that lines up with that 100% move around 990 or, around $10. And we could also see it break out even higher. We do have the highs over here around 1040, or let's, just have fun with it if I do a horizontal ray there. And the high on July 22nd, hoping it's the number. It's actually 1041. I was hoping it'd be 1042 as a 420 in there. But it's 1041, so I'll put a line there. That's another level that could be acting as resistance, maybe putting in a double top there. Or if we continue on with that extension, it could go to the 1618, and that would be around $11 to $11.37. Somewhere around there. But, of course, with all of this, this analysis could be wrong. And one of the things that I think is important to end on is just, Free Wyckoff's over here, as well as the Bronx Viking, just sharing, praising each other, that they respect each other a lot. And he also includes Colin Gladman, who works very closely with the Bronx Viking. And so I'm going to include links to their profiles in the description of this video. And, whether things do break bearish or bullish, just make sure that there is respect there. Just analysis, trying to understand understand the charts and trying to share that process, supporting it with data. But as always, those are just my thoughts. If you found them helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. And let me know if you like the bearish or bullish idea. Anyways, take care, have a great Tuesday, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.